Beautiful morning, isn't it? If you have your Bibles with you this morning, I'd like you to take them out and turn to the book of the Song of Solomon, where we've been studying for the last couple of weeks. If you don't have your Bible, we have a copy of the song in the back of your workbook, and you can turn there. We're going to be starting at chapter 1, verse 1. Before I do, we have some new ladies, and I think we could all appreciate a review of our colors to my right. I'm going to be referring to them again throughout the lesson. So let's just spend a minute and go over those colors. We have green, we have purple, and we have orange. Green is bonding. This is where couples come together and they meet and they decide they like each other. So they continue to date and they move from light green to dark green and maybe into light purple, where light purple would be coupling. And this is where they start holding hands and perhaps hugging and kissing. And then they get about halfway through purple and they probably at that point need to get married. And then they go into dark purple. And dark purple would be undressing in front of each other. It would be bathing together. It would be those intimate back rubs. It would be caressing. And then they move into orange. And orange is igniting. Orange is passionate sex. So, you got that down? Good. Let's start reading in verse 1, chapter 1. The Song of Songs, which is Solomon's. Can I get some help here? Can we read that together? Just that verse 1. Let's read it together. The Song of Songs, which is Solomon's. That was really poor. This is the Song of Songs. Let's try it one more time. Are you ready? Here we go. The Song of Songs, which is Solomon's. Follow along as I read verse 2. Let him kiss me with the kisses of his mouth. For your love is better than wine. Your anointing oils are fragrant. Your name is oil poured out. Therefore, virgins love you. Draw me after you. Let us run. The king has brought me into his chamber. This is the beginning of the song, but it really doesn't have a beginning. These first 4 verses introduce the book, but it doesn't introduce the story. We've learned over the last couple weeks that a whole lot has already happened before we hear the Shulamite say, let him kiss me with the kisses of his mouth. Now remember, the song is not told in chronological order. It is not like a normal story would be told. So there are several scenes that led up to these opening verses. And in these scenes, the Shulamite makes a lot of choices. And we're going to look at those choices this morning. Last week, I gave you a brief summary of the overview of Solomon and the Shulamite's relationship. We tried to kind of put the pieces together. We looked at how they met, where they met, the engagement, her accepting the engagement, the extravagant wedding processional that came to pick the 2 of them up and take them off to Jerusalem, where the wedding took place and where they eventually began to live out their married life. This morning, we're going to look at the choices that the Shulamite made. The choices she made up to the wedding and after the wedding in her marriage. If you'd like to take notes, you can turn to page 15 in your workbook. So let's look at the first choice she made before she even ever met Solomon. Now, a lot of times we make assumptions, and our assumptions can be correct. But when we're called on to defend those assumptions, we get caught off guard. You know, 1 Peter chapter 3, verse 15 tells us, always be ready to give an answer. And so, I imagine most of you in this room, if not all of you, have made the assumption that the Shulamite was a virgin before she married Solomon. And I would say that's a good assumption. However, there are some interpretations that would suggest that the Shulamite and Solomon were in fact sexually active before they got married. Now we don't have time to look at all the scripture and to pull all that out and to really review it. But I do want to give you a verse to take home with you that does indeed support the assumption that the Shulamite was a virgin when she was married. Last week we briefly looked at chapter 4. Chapter 4 is where Solomon is admiring the Shulamite, his bride's beauty. He opens it up with, "Behold, you are beautiful, my love. Behold, you are beautiful." And then he begins to look at parts of her body, her eyes, her teeth, her lips, her cheeks. We just continue reading on down. In verse 7, "You are altogether beautiful, my love. There is no flaw in you." Verse 9, "You have captivated my heart, my sister, my bride." Verse 11, "Your lips drip nectar, my bride." And then we land on verse 12. Verse 12 is the text for this morning, for this part of the lesson. He says, "A garden locked is my sister, my bride. A spring locked, a fountain sealed." Now, we learned that the majority of the song is filled with symbols and imagery. And so what is he talking about here? He's talking to the Shulamite, because he says, he calls her my sister, my bride, which are endearing terms. He's been talking to her all along from verse 1, and he's calling her a garden, a spring, a fountain. Now he's been talking about parts of her body all the way through the chapter, starting off with her eyes. So what is the garden? What is the spring? What is the fountain? This is referring to a sexual part of the Shulamite. This is referring to her vagina. These symbols, garden, spring, fountain, they are all locked. They are all sealed up. And these three images help come to life and point to the Shulamite's virginity. A garden locked, the word locked in Hebrew means bolted, shut, barred. The American Standard Version, I like what it says. It says a rock garden shut. In Palestine, gardens and vineyards were often surrounded by a tall rock wall. They were closed off to intruders, and only the owner could get into that garden. And so what Solomon is saying here when he calls the Shulamite a garden locked, he is saying that nobody has entered in yet. And he goes on in a second time, as if to make a point, to emphasize. He says a spring locked. Now because water was very scarce in that part of the world, springs were very desirable. But they didn't want the elements to come into the water and cause it to become impure. So they would lock their springs. And then finally, for a third time, just to make sure the reader got it, Solomon calls the Shulamite a fountain sealed. Now how did the owner seal the springs or the fountain? He would take clay when it was soft, and he would put it over the hole, and he would press on it, and he would get it really tight. And then the hot sun would bake that clay, it would get hard, and nobody could get in. And so what we see here, what we're reading here, is Solomon referring to the Shulamite as a garden locked, as a spring locked, as a fountain sealed. Ladies, just this verse alone shows that the Shulamite was a virgin. She had made the choice to remain a virgin prior to being married to Solomon. And she wants others to make that choice. How do we know that? Last week we looked at chapter 2, verse 7, where the Shulamite is talking to the daughters of Jerusalem. We call them her BFFs. If I say BBFs, just ignore that. I've been known to mispronounce things occasionally. her BFFs. And she says to them in chapter 2, verse 7, we read it last week, do not stir up or awaken love until it pleases. We're going to read that same warning a second time in chapter 3, verse 5. She says, I adjure you, I beg you, O daughters of Jerusalem, by the gazelles or the does of the field, that you not stir up nor awaken love until it pleases. This is a second warning that the Shulamite gives the daughters of Jerusalem, her BFFs. Now, we didn't take the time to look at the symbolism last week. Why did she use gazelles? Why did she use does? And we're going to look at that. What point is she trying to make? A gazelle is an antelope. It is sleek. It is beautiful. And it was very desirable, but rare in the Middle East. A doe, a female deer, was also very beautiful, very sleek, and very rare in the Middle East. But both of them, what they had in common was that they could be easily flushed out of their hiding place. If a hunter was looking for a gazelle or a doe, he could flush them out, and as they were running across the field, he could either capture them or worse, shoot them. And so why is she using this? What point is she getting across or trying to get across to the daughters of Jerusalem, to her BFFs? She was saying, just like a gazelle, just like a doe, is beautiful, is rare, is desirable. You are beautiful. You are rare. You are desirable. And just like a gazelle or a doe, you can easily be flushed out from your place of protection. You can easily be led away from your values. We think we make the decision of our values before something happens, and that's taught to a lot of our youth, and it's good. But what the Shulamite is saying here, but you can still easily be flushed out. You can still easily, for whatever reason, leave those values and that place of protection. So what is she saying? Listen to me. This is what happens. If you allow your sexual desires to get stirred up, and you allow yourself to have a sexual encounter, and you think you can handle it, beware, because you may fall into having sexual activity with someone that you have not committed to, someone that you really don't know. Did you know most sexual encounters aren't planned? They just happen based on the moment. And most of the time, people that get into those kind of situations regret it. The hookup generation. They hook up with people that aren't even friends. Or if they are friends, friends can go off with a crowd for a weekend and party and have a good time. And next thing they know, they wake up and they look out what happened the night before. And they weren't in a committed relationship. They were just friends. Or maybe people that are couples that are in committed relationships, but they haven't been sexual yet. Something happens and they cross over and they introduce the element of sexual activity, dark purple and orange. And they have now introduced a game changer. Because let me tell you, when sexual activity begins before marriage, it is a game changer. How do I know that? Because all too often we get married to somebody that we have been sexual with, especially if we have a Christian worldview, because we think we need to, because we've been sexual, and we don't even know the person. We don't even know them. I had a client, and taking her personal history, she shared that with me. She was a believer. She had values. But she had become very sexually active with her boyfriend. And so because of that, they got married. And here she sits across from me, and with tears in her eyes, she says, I don't even know him. I didn't take the time to get to know The Shulamite warns, using the gazelles and the does as examples. If you want to be free to decide objectively, in considering the cost of what marriage is going to look like with this person, beware. Don't get yourself involved sexually because your objectivity goes out the window. Choose to restrain because there's great issues at stake. As we leave the group of singles, moving on to the marrieds, as we leave chapter 4, verse 12, where the Shulamite has invited Solomon into her garden. In chapter 5, verse 1, he accepts her invitation. We close out the first major part of the Song of Solomon. At the second major part, I'm sorry, I'm losing my place here. Here we go. Marital union has to take place. From chapter 1, verse 1, through chapter 5, verse 1. What we see and what we read is all about their meeting, their relationship, their wedding day, their wedding night. And we see the ideal. We see two people falling in love. In chapter 5, verse 2, it begins the second major part of the song. And here we're going to begin reading about adjustments that have to be made if two people are going to learn to live with each other. As a marriage therapist, I see different phases in relationships. The first phase is typically the premarital or the honeymoon and the first few months into marriage. And rarely do I see them fight. I do premarital therapy, and often I try to get them to fight, but they won't. I don't care to see them falling in love with each other. I want to see them fight. But then they come back. Because they're in the adjustment stage. The adjustment stage is when they become very disillusioned. They realize that they're living with a sinner. They don't like it. And they usually don't fight very fair. And then they come back full circle in the renewal or the recommitment stage. Maybe they've gone to a seminar, they start reading books, or they got these great mentors that are helping them. Or maybe they've come into my office. And they discover each other a little bit more fuller. They learn how to love each other based on what the Bible says. And they still have conflict, but they've learned how to fight fair. Much of what I do is teach people to fight fair and resolve conflict. And there are three things that couples fight about. They fight about money, kids, and sex. And sex is typically number one. But of course, the Shulamite and Solomon never fought about sex. Because, she was sick with love. He was her apple tree. She was his garden. I'm glad and pleased to stand before you and share with you this morning that yes, they did. They did fight about sex. The Bible is realistic. It doesn't leave us watching them ride off into the sunset, living happily ever after. As a matter of fact, nearly 2 chapters are devoted to them having a fight and then recovering from that fight. So we're going to pick it up in chapter 5, verse 2. Remember that time has passed. They have closed out their honeymoon period, and now they have opened into their marriage. And as we read through this second major section, we're going to discover that there are 2 major areas that affected this young marriage. And the first one related to the problems of sex. Solomon's job apparently kept him away from the Shulamite longer than she liked. And he was in the habit of approaching her sexually late at night, and she didn't like that. And verse 2 opens up, if you'd like to follow along, in chapter 5. The Shulamite is talking, and she's saying, I slept, but my heart was awake. This was a restless-filled night for her. I know you've been there. I was there last night. You're just trying to sleep, but you're not right there. Your heart keeps waking you up. A sound, my beloved is knocking. It was customary in Solomon's day for wives and husbands to have separate chambers. And so here we find Solomon at the door. He's knocking. He wants to come in. He wants to share his day with her. She's not answering. She might have pretended she was asleep. Can anybody relate? I know you can. Finally, Solomon talks. Open to me, my sister, my love, my dove, my perfect one. He is really pouring out. For my head is wet with dew, my locks with the drops of the night. Well, Solomon's been working late. How do we know? Because he's drenched with the dew. During some of the months in Palestine, the dew would be so heavy that it would saturate the clothes. And so we know that it was either very late at night or early in the morning. And he could have gone to his own bedroom. He could have changed his clothes and dried off. But he wanted to see and connect with the Shulamite. And this is where the trouble begins. The Shulamite finally makes a choice and answers him in verse 3. I had put on my garment. How can I put it on? I had bathed my feet. How can I soil them? Her response in modern day excuses might be something like this. I'm already in bed and you want me to get up and get dressed and open the door and let you in? I have already taken my bath and you want to be intimate? Can't this wait? I am in bed and I am tired. I don't think she had her raisin cake that day. Heather, Jessa, where are you? You need to send some over to her. But Solomon persisted, as most men do. And while we may not always appreciate the persistence of our husbands, if it was up to the wives to initiate, we would have been extinct a long time ago. And so he persists, and the Shulamite is still talking in verse 4, and she says, my beloved put his hand to the latch. I like what the New American Standard Bible reads. My beloved extended his hand through the opening. Now, it was ancient custom in those days that the doors had latches or bolts to lock them, but there was a hole that was always big enough for a hand to go through, and it could lift the bolt of the latch if that hole was not covered. And so Solomon, persisting, put his hand through that hole, and something happens here. Something happens with the Shulamite. Maybe she fully wakes up. Maybe she reconsiders her choices. And so in the latter part of verse 4, she said, my heart was thrilled within me. Perhaps the sight of Solomon's hand thrilled her. I often ask couples, what is the most attractive part of your spouse to you? And I had this one lady, she loved her husband's hand. That's okay with me. Maybe the Shulamite loved Solomon's hand, so my heart was thrilled within me. I arose to open to my beloved, my hands dripped with myrrh, my fingers with liquid myrrh on the handles of the bolt. Now something's interesting here going on. She's removing the bolt. But you know, Solomon's hand had been in that hole. He could have removed the bolt. He could have come in. He didn't need her to open it up for him, but he wanted her to open it up. And verse 6 says, I opened to my beloved, but my beloved had turned and gone. And I want to land on that word, turned, here for just a second. Because in marriage counseling, what we often see is couples that face trouble turning away from each other. And our job is to help them to turn toward each other. And here Solomon turned away. And that's probably the saddest verse in the entire psalm. Follows this. My soul failed me when he spoke. When he asked me, I messed up. I sought him, but I found him not. I called him, but he gave me no answer. She is distraught. She is upset. She runs out of her room. Perhaps she's running through the palace. She's calling out his name. She can't find him. She is upset. She runs out into the dark, something that you don't do in those days. It is late. It is dark. She's putting herself in danger. She gets herself in trouble with the watchman. Finally, she finds her friends, the daughters of Jerusalem. And this time, not to warn them, but to ask for their help. In verse 8, I adjure you, O daughters of Jerusalem, if you find my beloved, that you tell him, I am sick with love. Where have we heard that before? Her friends respond, seeing her so distraught. They say, verse 9, what is your beloved more than another beloved? O most beautiful among women. What is your beloved more than another beloved that you adjure us or that you beg us? Okay, we see that you're upset. But girlfriend, you're running out into the dark night. You're putting yourself in danger. What is such a big deal about this guy? What kind of beloved is he? And this question jolts the Shulamite. It cleared her thinking. And she answers her friends in verse 10. And she says, my beloved is radiant and ruddy, distinguished among 10,000. His head is the finest gold. His locks are wavy, black as a raven. His eyes are like doves beside streams of water, bathed in milk, sitting beside a cool water. His cheeks are like beds of spices, mounds of sweet-smelling herbs. His lips are lilies, dripping liquid myrrh. His arms are rods of gold set with jewels. His body is polished ivory. He's been to the gym. He's bedecked with sapphires. His legs are alabaster columns set on bases of gold. His appearance is like Lebanon, choice as the cedars. His mouth is most sweet. He is altogether desirable. This is my beloved. This is my friend. I've had total intimacy with this guy. We are one. I've gone to places with this guy I won't want to go to with anybody else. He is my beloved. He's my friend. Her friends respond in verse 6, verse 1. Where has your beloved gone? O most beautiful among women, where has your beloved turned that we may seek him with you? We get it. Why? We will help you. Which way did you see him turn? I want you to notice the difference between verse 3 and verse 16 of chapter 5. In verse 3, we read, I had put off my garment. How could I put it on? I had bathed my feet. How could I soil them? And in verse 16, this is my beloved. This is my friend. What happened? What happened between verse 3 and verse 16? In the beginning of this scene, we see the Shulamite, she's tired. Maybe she had to get up the next morning with the kids and rush them off to camp. Maybe she was upset it was so late and this happened so much. And the importance of marital intimacy that dropped off of her priority list from their first few days together. Did you know that the one in the marriage that has the lower sex drive carries the key to the component of sexual intimacy in their relationship? Whoever that is, husband or wife, they carry the key. They are the ones who make the final decision whether they are going to be intimate or not. They're the ones with the lower sex drive. And apparently this night, Shulamite wasn't in the mood. So when she opened that door, she changed her mood. She opened the door in verse 6. Everything changed. He was gone. Her fatigue and her anger and her mood didn't seem to matter anymore. What mattered is that he was gone. And it scared her enough to make choices to go out into the dark to look for him. And what had happened is she moved from what she thought was important in her marriage to what was important. And that was their relationship. Marriage takes adjustment, ladies, especially in the area of sexuality, of intimate marital sex. And the Solomon and the Shulamite were no exception. They needed to adjust to each other. They needed to recognize what was a priority. All too often, couples get married, and they think they're going to fall into bed and just have this wild, passionate sex, dark orange. It rarely happens. I wish it did. I'd be out of work, and I'm ready to retire. I'm ready to retire. But it doesn't happen. More often than not, if they don't have a lot of experience or no experience, they can barely get through the honeymoon. And even if they've been sexual before marriage, pre-marriage sex is not the same as post-marriage sex. Marriage changes things. It's not the same. There are adjustments to be made. There are priorities to be established. Marital intimacy should find its way to the top of the list for a couple. It just needs to be there. One research study showed that 75% of failed marriages end as a result of sexual issues. So what is the Shulamite's message to her married friends? Don't do what I did that night, ladies. Friends, BFFs, choose to stay away. Finally, later life, my generation. What's your message? Choose to renew. Often you hear couples renewing their wedding vows. They've been married 50 or 60 or, I don't know, sometimes 75 years. Pretty cool. I like it. But I have often asked myself the question, exactly what are they renewing? And I guess the better question is, what can they renew? In my age, you know what I'm talking about. I used to run track many years ago. And I was fast. Actually, I was faster than most. I would run track and run races so fast that I was sure I would lose my balance because my feet didn't stay on the ground long enough. And I could just feel my body going this way. Most days, I walk. I don't run. Running just doesn't work anymore. I walk. I get to my destination. It just takes me a little bit longer. There's a difference in how love was expressed between the Shulamite early on and Solomon than it was expressed later in their marriage. Chapter 4, we're learning that Solomon was admiring his bride's body. He started at her eyes and he went down to her teeth and her lips and her neck. And he comes to her two breasts that are like fawns, twins of gazelle. And he says in verse 7, there's no flaw in you. And we learned at verse 16 that the Shulamite invites him into the garden, her garden. He accepts, and they are now in orange. They are experiencing orange. In chapter 7, it opens up, and the Shulamite, or Solomon is not admiring the Shulamite the same way in the fact of talking about her beauty. Let's read it together, chapter 7, verse 1. Follow along as I read. How beautiful are your feet in sandals, O noble daughter. Your rounded thighs are like jewels, the work of a master's hand. You got to hear me studying this in my office, reading it out loud. I laugh. Your navel is a rounded bowl that never lacks mixed wine. Your belly is a heap of wheat. I told myself I wasn't going to do this. It's just fun. Your neck is like an ivory tower. Your eyes are pools in Hispen. Verse 6, how beautiful and pleasant you are, O loved one, with all your delights. Your statue is like a palm tree. Your breasts are like clusters. I say, I will climb the palm tree. I will lay hold of its fruit. Oh, may your breasts be like the clusters of the vine. Are y'all enjoying those grapes this morning? Hope so. We're using them as a teaching tool. Verse 10, the Shulamite responds, I am my beloved's, and his desire is for me. There's a marked difference between chapter 4 and chapter 7. Chapter 4 starts off with her eyes. Chapter 7 starts off with her feet. Chapter 4, Solomon enters her garden. Chapter 7, there's not even a mention of a garden. Chapter 4, we see orange going on. Chapter 7, we see dark purple going on. What we're seeing, the difference here, is how they are experiencing sharing intimacy. Chapter 4 was the honeymoon. He began at her face. Chapter 5 is years later, and he begins with her feet. And why is this significant? Solomon was very likely on his knees before her in chapter 7, verse 1. He was very likely holding her feet. He was unwrapping her sandals, her ties. He was in a servant's position. Servants were the ones who removed the sandals. Servants washed the feet. Solomon was showing her great respect here. The old saying, he worships the ground she walks on. Maybe it started right here. And those sandals. Sandals were worn by those who could be trusted. Slaves did not wear sandals. Concubines did not wear sandals. Women, wives in a wealthy man or a powerful man's harem did not wear sandals. Because if they did, they went outside and the owners weren't sure that they would come back. But the Shulamite wore sandals. Solomon didn't control her. Solomon didn't confine her. He fully trusted her that if she were to leave, that she would return. Proverbs 31:11 tells us that the heart of a husband safely trusts her. Solomon continues to admire his wife. Rounded thighs are like jewels. In the Bible, the upper part of the legs were compared. They were a symbol of steadfast loyalty, steadfast courage. And he was telling the Shulamite that she had strong character. But I like verse 3. Verse 3 is my favorite. Your two breasts are like two fawns, twins of a gazelle. Why is it my favorite? Because those words exactly mirror what he said in chapter 4, their honeymoon. They are the exact words. There are, if we were to look and compare chapter 4 with chapter 7, there are no verses that mirror one another except this verse. So he says to her, years later, what he told her the night of her honeymoon. Now, in reality, years later, I'm guessing she may not be exactly as sleek and taut as a gazelle. But in his eyes, she was. In his eyes, she was beautiful. It didn't matter that she was aging. She felt desired. She felt loved. She responds in verse 10, I'm my beloved's, and his desire is for me still. And I take the liberty to add that word, still, because she still felt desirable. What's the Shulamite saying here? As we age and as things change, She's saying, make a choice to renew your intimate relationship. Perhaps it's going to look different. That's okay. You'll be taken to deeper levels. Now we're at the reality check. Ladies, I don't like the reality check, because this is where we have to get serious. But it's a part of our learning. We've been talking about choices, the choices that the Shulamite made. We've been listening to her voice of choice for our single sisters, for our married sisters, for those who are either single or married later on in life. There are two types of choices in life. There's ones that we choose, and there's ones that choose us. I want to talk for just a minute about the ones that we choose. What if your choices have been ones that you regret? Maybe you're sitting out there and you're saying to yourself, the worst choice I've made in my life is sitting at home waiting for me to walk through that door. You're in a tough marriage. I get that. Maybe you chose to be sexually active before marriage. Most do today. And you're experiencing some guilt and shame about that. You wish you didn't. I had a client that came in and she was very sexually active prior to her marriage. And she was just so caught up in so much guilt and so much shame over it. And then I had another client who came in that was sexually active with her husband before marriage. And she was madder than she could be at her husband. Clear over on the other spectrum, she said, he wants to be the spiritual leader in my home. He couldn't even be the spiritual leader in our relationship because he pressed me. How can I trust him now? Maybe you've made the choice of having an affair. Maybe you're here this morning, you're still in that affair. You're in and out. You're really struggling. Maybe you've made the choice to have an emotional attachment, an emotional affair with another man, someone at work, someone you know, because your husband just doesn't quite listen to you. Both are devastating. Both leave the depth of so much pain and so many scars. Or perhaps you made the daily choice of pushing your husband away, just like the Shulamite did that evening. And you're not even sure if you can get past that. And then what about the choices that choose us? We have no control over. An unwanted divorce. You did everything you could to save your marriage. A spouse that has died prematurely. Or maybe some childhood abuse. You were just a kid, and it has scarred you. What do we do with some of these choices that we regret? What do we do with some of these choices that we struggle with to try to push through? We choose to look to God and His Word. Because, ladies, sometimes that's all we can do. We can read a book, we can go to a friend, we can go to a counselor. I get that. That's what I do. But I'll never forget the experience I had so many years ago that changed me. I had a young mom come to me. She was divorced. She had several kids. She made choices that she regretted that got her to that place. And then choices were being made for her that she had no control over. And she'd come a couple times, and one of the times she came in and she just sat down, and I could tell she was numb with pain. She was non-responsive. There was just a blank stare. And I knew that talk therapy was not going to work in this case. She just sat there. So I got up and I got my Bible. And I went by her and I sat next to her. And I opened my Bible. And I began to read. And I'll never forget the verses that God led me to. Romans 8:1. There is therefore now no condemnation for those who are in Christ Jesus. There is no condemnation. Romans 8:37. In all things, all of our past regrets, all of our current struggles. We are more than conquerors through Him who loved us. And then I read Revelations 21:4 to her. He will wipe away every tear from their eyes, and death shall be no more. Neither shall there be mourning, nor crying, nor pain anymore, for the former things have passed away. And He who is seated on the throne said, Behold, I am making all things new. I read to her for a long time. And she started to cry, and then her crying turned into sobs. And she just fell. She just fell into my lap. And I just held her, and I cried with her. She left that day, and she came back again and again and again. And you know what I got to see? I got to see a defeated woman who had made some bad choices in her life. She'd repented, but she was living out the consequences of those choices. I got to see her come in, embrace God's forgiveness, trust Him to restore her, and she grew to a place that God designed for her, and she is now serving God with all of her heart and touching lives and changing lives. That's what God's Word does, ladies. I don't know where you're at today. I don't know what choices you've made that you regret. I don't know what choices have made for you that you have no control over. But this one thing I do know, that God's perfect love, that God's perfect grace is sufficient for all of us in this room. And it doesn't matter what experiences we've been through. It doesn't matter what choices we've made or have been made for us. We have not missed God's ideal. I don't like the idea that we have a second choice in life. Do you? Because if we only have a second, if we have a second choice because we missed His first, then we're all living His second choice. Because frankly, I don't know which one of us lives out God's ideal and doesn't make mistakes. God is in the business of restoring and redeeming and healing the lost and the broken and things that have been taken away from us, including our gift of sexuality. Aren't you glad? Aren't you glad? We need to close out in prayer. And I'm hoping that as you leave today, I love that Christy introduced the idea that we make 5,000 choices a day. That's a lot of choices, isn't it? I'm hoping today that as you leave and as we discovered what some of the choices were that the Shulamite made, I'm hoping that you leave not defeated but empowered. Knowing that today you can walk out that door and those 5,000 choices can be made and they can honor the Lord. And that you can embrace Him. And that you can allow Him to empower you to serve Him. Let's pray. Father God, Father, I've done my best. It's been hard, Father, looking at your word here because it's always hard to understand. Thank you for the opportunity, God, to speak and to share your word. God, I pray that your word in this book and your word in this message and the words that we give one another, the prayers that we send upward to you, Father. I pray that you would take it all and make it even better in our lives, that you would impact us, Father, with your word, and the Holy Spirit would become so real to every one of us. As we go home and we walk through that door to a troubled marriage, that we will trust you in it, Father. Perhaps, Father, for those that are single, that have made some choices they regret, God, that you would restore them. Create in them, God, a sense of forgiveness, knowing full well that they walk in your power. For those marriages that are struggling, God, just to even be intimate, that you would teach them that this needs to be atop of the priority list. It came from your mind, that you created it, and that it is holy, Father. And I pray for the husbands that aren't here. They're not learning this. God, I pray that you work in their lives through their own Bible study, or perhaps a friend, or the husbands that are away from you, God, that you would pull them back. That you would allow something to happen in their lives that would cause them to come back running to you, God. And that the marriages would not only be restored, Father, but they would be built up by your power. There would be strong marriages, God. And the things that they do, that they would honor you. We trust you for this, Father, because where can we go but to you? We ask this in your Son's name, Jesus. Amen. We have time for some question and answer. I'd like to ask if we can have Maria. Maria, I better find. Hold on. I have to take notes on this because there's a couple hard questions. Okay, show me the first one.
Okay, the first question is, I feel as we age and become seniors, men and women differ on how they perceive intimacy should be. Do you find this to be true in most couples?
Okay, so I feel as we age and become seniors, men and women differ on how they perceive intimacy should be. Do I agree with that? Yes, I do. And let me tell you why. Research shows that 50% of men over 50 suffer from ED. ED is something that, if you don't know what that means, it prevents guys from entering orange. Don't you love the colors? It's been really helpful up here, let me tell you. So, what we have is we have husbands, 50% of them at least, that's what the research says, in their 50s, approaching 60s, moving into later life. They can't get into orange, and so they make the decision, and research supports that husbands are really the ones that slow down sex. They make the decision to slow down sex or stop it altogether, most of the time. Why? Because they do suffer from ED. And they don't know anything about purple. They haven't been taught about purple. If you're young, in a young marriage out there, teach your husband about purple. So he's ready when he gets 50. Sound like a right nice round number. So they don't know about purple. I see a lot of older couples, and frankly, when I first went into this, I really thought I was going to see all these young couples that didn't know what to do. I'm seeing all of these older couples in the last few years. I had a string of them. I saw a couple in their 80s. And so we start looking at purple, and we start talking about what purple is. And it is so cool because the husbands love purple. And you know what I'm finding is it doesn't matter what age they are. They like purple. They'll give up orange for purple. Frankly, the women are the ones that want to go from green to orange. They want to get it over with. They don't want to stop in purple. That's too much work. They're too tired. And the husbands, and they're sitting there. I put these up on my wall, and we're talking about it. The husbands, I kind of like purple. So, yes, to answer your question, intimacy, when it looks like this, change. Husbands don't always know what that looks like. Wives, I think we have a better view of it, and we both need to learn a little bit more about it. Okay? This is the heart.
Okay, the next question is, what does God's Word say about self-pleasure?
What does God's Word say about self-pleasure? I knew this would be asked. This was asked the first week. Thought about it. Wait till last week. This question comes up almost every time when people are invited to ask questions about sex. And I think it comes up because there's not a clear answer. The church has been reluctant to address this topic of self-pleasuring because there isn't anything in God's Word that says, thou shalt not. It's vague. And so we need to go to other parts of God's Word. This is in a gray area. And I did a little bit of research on this, and I want to share with you what Paul said in 1 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 12. It says, all things are lawful for me, but not all things are... I'm sorry, let me start over. All things are lawful for me, but all things are not helpful. All things are lawful for me, but I will not be brought under the power of any. So what he's saying is, as a believer, we are free from bondage, free from legalism, free from rules. Things are lawful, but they're not always helpful. Things are lawful, but I'm not going to, just because I can, I'm not going to be brought under the power of them. And I wanted to bring out 3 points about self-pleasure. Marital intimacy was God's idea. And there are 2 verbs that define marital intimacy. And that is relating and connecting. That's what intimacy is all about. Relating and connecting. And self-pleasuring, at best, is incomplete. It's a solitary activity. You are not relating. You are not connecting. And what happens is it becomes a substitute for intimacy within marriage. It relieves hormonal desires and hormonal pushes, but it becomes a substitute for intimacy. Often when I have a couple in my office and one of them has a pretty significant low sex drive, I will try to meet with them by themselves. And we'll talk a little bit about it. And most of the time I find that they are self-pleasuring. And when I ask them to stop and to pull back so that we can work on their marriage in this area of intimacy, I find that they begin to find it restored. So you got to be careful. The second thing is, in any type of sexual activity, we have to guard our thought life, don't we? Whether it's self-pleasuring or whether it's being sexual with our mate. We still have to guard our sexual, or guard our thought life. The Bible says, keep every thought captive. And often in self-pleasuring, our thought life goes to a place that doesn't honor God. So we have to consider that. And finally, any sexual behavior that becomes a habit can be detrimental. And you know, I'm talking about routines where there's no spontaneity. That's detrimental. Where you fall into a pattern and you don't change things up. That can be detrimental to intimacy. And what happens with self-pleasuring, I'm not going to go into the biology of it because we don't have time, and I flunked biology anyway. I'm not very good at it. But I understand what I mean. That the intensity of self-pleasuring is a lot stronger than when you come together with your husband or your wife. That can't be repeated. And so if somebody is self-pleasuring, they are feeling a higher level of intensity, and they can't get that with their spouse, and it can easily become addictive. And so when we think about it, all things are lawful, but they're not necessarily helpful, and I won't be put under the control of any of it, because I'm under the control of my Lord. We have to ask ourselves, are we connecting and relating with our spouse, or is this a substitute? Am I thinking of things that dishonor God? And am I moving to a place where I'm looking more forward to that than I am being with my spouse? And I know I've left out singles. Okay? I have singles. What am I supposed to do? with my sex urges. I don't want to be sexually active. You're telling me not to. Schumann said, don't be sexually active. What do I do? And I want to close it out with this. This is a gray area. There is no thou shalt not. This is a personal area. This needs to be addressed between you and God. It is not up to me to stand up here and tell you yes or no. Some might, I won't. But you need to consider, is it helpful? And then you need to find yourself on your knees before the Lord and getting His direction. Is that helpful to you?